on the third week of my Love and Marriage series, and today we're talking about some of the differences between life before marriage and life after. We're not going to be able to unpack everything, but hopefully we'll try and address some of the fundamentals. My guest, Taye Aluko, is a certified relationship and marriage coach. She has 19 years of experience as a couples counselor. Her objective is to help couples build strong foundations for happy marriages. Taye holds a law degree, MBA, and certification in counseling and coaching. She is also a Prepare and Reach facilitator, NLP practitioner, and WIMBIZ member. Welcome, Taye.
Thank you for having me, Fiona.
Awesome. I'm really quite happy to have you here because, as I said, I'm doing this Love and Marriage series, and I decided, let's talk about before I do and after I do. So, first things first, what is the main difference between those two phases or stages?
What is the main difference? You know, when I saw the topic, I said to myself, this is a very, very good one and a very needed one as well. So before I do is fantasy. Before I do is boy meets girl. Boy and girl fall in love. There's excitement. There's fun. There's roses. There are candlelight dinners. There all of that for the most part. Boy and girl are on cloud 9. That's before I do. Now, after I do, boy and girl are coming down from cloud 9 onto planet Earth. Expectation and fantasy colliding with reality. That is one of the fundamental differences.
So, are you saying that before getting married, everything is fantasy, is not reality?
Before getting married, everything is that phase. And the things that are happening in that phase are the things that usually will happen.
Excuse me.
So I wouldn't say fantasy per se, but it is what happens in that phase. And for the most part, that's not what happens in the phase of marriage. So there's a difference.
Can you give some of the examples of that phase versus marriage phase?
Okay, so that phase, usually you've met this person, you've put this person on a pedestal. Don't forget that you don't see each other all the time.
True.
And even if you do, there's chemistry. There's the butterflies, there's the excitement, there's the euphoria. So a lot of times you might be seeing some red flags or things that are not necessarily red flags, but maybe weaknesses or things that irritate you. But because you're in love, you overlook. In some instances, you don't even see. Or you see and believe that, okay, this we will deal with when we cross the bridge of marriage. So there's all of that going on. But when you are married, that is now a different ballgame entirely, because with marriage, there are bills to be paid. There's house rent. There's school fees when the children come. There's a case of who's going to put gas in the car. Who's going to pay NEPA bill. I mean, a lady said to me, when she got married, one of the things she hated most, which she found out she had to do, was sweep the house every day.
Oh, wow.
Which she wasn't thinking towards when they were dating. But that's the reality. The house has to be cleaned.
But she had a house she lived in before marriage, no?
Well, maybe she was the oldest girl. Maybe she didn't have to do it. But now she's married. You don't want a house help. So it's between the two of you.
So how does one navigate around that? Because they sound like two completely different worlds.
I think the most important thing is for you to be aware that your journey is going to differ, and there is nothing wrong with that, because that is what you should be expecting. So there's a lot of work to be done around your expectations. Thinking that what we had when we were boyfriend and girlfriend or boo and bae is what we will have automatically when we marry. I think that's the first hurdles that shake a new couple's boat. So they then begin to wonder, what's going on here? We used to go on date nights. I had someone say, this was before I got married, I went for a bridal shower. And one of the ladies who was giving advice was like, before she got married, she and her boyfriend used to go on dates a lot. And I'm talking 23 years ago. They got married, and all of a sudden he stopped taking her out. And one day she says to him, we used to go out before we were married. What's going on? And he answers, before I married you, I was writing exam. Now that I've married you, I've passed the exam. This was what she was telling us, that who writes exam again after they have passed it? So in the guy's mindset, he was doing all of that because he was trying to catch a fish. Now the fish is in his house. Why do I need to do all of that again? So people let their guards down, maybe unintentionally.
That already sounds like a recipe for disaster, in my opinion.
Well, in that case, honestly, that marriage ended. So maybe that's the reason, maybe not. But unfortunately, that marriage ended.
So how do we avoid falling into that trap of disillusion? That's what it sounds like to me.
For me, I would say going in with the right mindset, going in with realistic expectations, understanding the person you're getting married to. Because if you're a romantic at heart and you marry someone that is not romantic, and you're expecting that he will become romantic or she will become romantic in marriage, the expectation is not realistic. Because you have married someone that is not romantic. So it's not an expectation that is wrong to have, but relative to the person you have matched yourself with. So going in with expectations that are not realistic. So all of these things will set you up for disappointment.
Okay, so let me segue. Let's go back to describing the female.
Yeah.
Before. Yes.
The female before. Okay.
Who is in this state of euphoria. Yes. She's in love.
Yes.
And then she gets married, and then things are being asked of her that she's like, whoa, where's that coming from? Isn't the onus on the parents to ensure that they equip their child to be aware? In the Nigerian society, a lot of children live at home until they get married.
Now, I won't put the onus on the parent because you can only give what you have as a parent. So if you as a parent don't know, you should know, but you don't know. So I would say the onus is on you who are getting married. For several reasons. Number one, your life and your parents' life are not the same. So they might even be equipping you in a way that you do not like because you are living in different generations. So for me, I put the onus on the people getting married because it is your life that you're going to live out. Why do I want to leave it to someone else? You need to equip yourself. That's the way I look at it.
Okay, considering the fact that right now there are a lot of people, so in my mom's generation, they used to get married young. 21, 22, you know, before 30.
Yeah.
In my generation, got married older. Now,
older being what
older
age?
being maybe between the ages of 27 and 35.
Okay.
Now we see children getting married younger again.
Really?
Seemingly.
Okay.
What do they know about equipping themselves?
I'm not honestly sure it's a function of age, to be honest, because you can be 40 and not be mentally and emotionally ready for marriage.
Okay.
I think it's a function of the learning you expose yourself to. And so you can find a 24-year-old who has, trained herself, exposed herself to learning, understands who she is, knows what she wants from life, so she has all of that education. She's ready. So I wouldn't really put it down to age. As long as you're over the age of 21, the only reason where age would be a factor is that you want to explore life and experience life before you now get yourself tied down to a man and to start having children. So in my own, that's the way I see it. But in terms of you're 24, you're not ready, there can be 3 24-year-olds and their maturity level is completely different.
Very true. Very true. How do you then, what are the practical skills you then need to go through this, what is it, this, after, jump the broom as they say in America.
I think it starts with the before.
Okay.
You know, I saw something online maybe a couple of years back called dating intelligently. So the before, as in having the conversations. You know, this is not a one-off dating relationship. This is a relationship that's leading us to the altar. And so we are talking building. Now, if I was going to build a business, I won't be casual with building a business. So why would I be casual with building my life? I have a friend who said to me, I married anyhow. And because I married anyhow, I had an anyhow marriage. A lot of the times we are marrying anyhow without knowing it, because what we are focusing on are not the things that speak to sustainability in marriage. And so I would say being intentional, and that starts from knowing yourself and knowing what you want, understanding the value that you carry, understanding your likes and dislikes, understanding your own values. And then in all of that, who you align yourself to matters. Does this person, are there similarities, are there commonalities? It may not be all fours, but do we have the same values? Is our mindset the same? Am I someone with a growth mindset and I'm going out with somebody that has a fixed mindset? There will be challenges along the way because we don't see life the same way. So for the most part, these are the things that are more important. And I'm not saying don't have the roses, don't have the flowers. But while doing that, don't neglect the weightier things.
Okay. There's this thing I hear where before you get married, you used to do certain things. Mm-hmm. You referenced it when you talked about date night. And then when you get married, everything completely changes. And in some instances, it happens overnight. Literally from the day you say I do, the next day, the couple is a completely different couple. Why is that?
Honestly, I feel that in some instances, maybe, and I really don't have all the answers, I'll be honest, but I've spoken to couples who, it's like immediately after the wedding day, scales fell off. And in those instances, I feel that they had seen the signs, but they didn't know how to press the brake. They obviously shouldn't have gone ahead. But you know how everybody's excited for you, oh, you're getting married. I've heard a friend said to me, before she got married, she knew she shouldn't have been marrying this guy. She ran to a friend of hers, and the friend was like, this is the devil. This is what we have been praying for all these years. So these are just, last minute jitters. So people sometimes know. Do they always know? Maybe not. But how can you go from being in love one day and the very next day, scales have fallen off? There were things leading up to it that you ignored because you felt it would be better. It will be better.
What of that thing we say in Nigeria, see finish, don't enter them?
See finish, they enter well.
For those that don't understand pidgin English, how do we explain that?
See finish is, I like to call it familiarity that is breeding contempt. So the thing is that you will become familiar, but it does not need to lead to disrespect. It does not need to lead to devaluation of each other. It does not lead to contemptuous behavior. When we become familiar with each other, we start to disregard, disrespect, commonize, so many things go on. And that is really see finish. And honestly, it kills marriages.
But that seems to happen to a lot of marriages, though.
It happens. That's why I say you will become familiar. But you need to pull yourself back from starting to disregard and disrespect each other. And that's why appreciation is a big deal. Because, the thing that you've had all the time, you don't really appreciate it. And I say to people all the time, if you've had your phone for 5 years, you won't wake up and say, I've had this phone for 5 years, let me start using it to sweep the floor. You will still use it as a phone. So why do we, because we've been together for 5 years, then begin to disregard ourselves? We still have the same value that we started out with. And so that's why being intentional is so important. Because when you're intentional, you will notice that, hey, we're getting to this place where we're starting to take each other for granted. We need to, begin to pull back and see where we're dropping the ball. And that's why people say marriage is hard work. It's not a physical hard work. It's just you always being aware. And you're aware because you also have a picture of the kind of life you want. So you can know when you are deviating from the picture that you both painted together.
That statement you just made, marriage is hard work, I hear it a lot and it frustrates me. Because my question is, why does it have to be hard work? Why can't it be?
What's wrong with hard work? Is hard work a bad thing? Is there anything we've gotten on this life that we got on a platter of gold or a pedestal? For me, I see that if there is a value to be gotten or a reward, I will work hard for the reward. But to expect that things are just waiting for you to walk into it. And that's why I say that there's no happiness in marriage. They're just two people who are coming into the relationship and wanting to make it work. It's not waiting for you. Happiness is not waiting for you. Peace is not waiting for you. Joy is not waiting for you. If you're cantankerous and you've married a cantankerous person, how do you expect that you'll be happy? You have to work on yourself. Otherwise, what you're going to have is basbos. A lot of it. So it's not about, there's work to be done, but honestly, it's worth it. It is worth it.
If you were going to, let me break them down into 3 segments. Dating, courting, marriage.
Yeah.
And you are going to give each group 3 pieces of advice.
Yes.
What would it be?
So for the dating, I would say, shine your eyes. Choice. The choice of who you marry can either make or mar your life. Choose wisely. Choose not with your heart alone. Choose with your strategic cap. Thinking, will this person get me to where I want to go? Is this person going where I want to go? But then, I would also say, know yourself and know what you want from life.
And be honest with yourself.
And be honest with yourself. Because if you don't know what you want from life, you won't know that the person that you're joining with is going in an opposite direction from you. So that's number 2. And I would also say that don't put pressure on yourself. And don't let society put pressure on you. Because people are being pressurized. You pressurize yourself, society pressurizes you, social media pressurizes you, your parents pressurize you, couple goals pressurize you. So much pressure. You have to stand strong. Because pressure in is pressure out. That's for the dating. What was the next one that you
said?
For courting, I would say, don't be carried away by the butterflies. Because when there are red flags, you don't see them. For courting, I would say love is not enough. Love is important, but it is honestly not the most important thing. I'm watching this series, Indian matchmaking, arranged marriage. Love is not what they look out for. They do all the matching, personality and everything, and the love comes after. For the courting, I would say, have the hard conversations, ask the questions, understand yourselves. And if you see that this thing is looking shaky, put a break or full stop. It's not by force. It's not by force. And for the married is the next one. For the married, I would say commitment. Be committed to yourselves. Be committed to the journey. Be committed because there will be trials. Expect that there will be trials. I would also say for the married, openness is key. You find that sometimes you're married and then you're in this place where you're no longer talking. So for you to be able to really converse freely, you need to be open. And I would also say boundaries. There's so much to be said, but because you said 3 things, I would say boundaries. Because guess what? This is Africa. Families marry themselves. Boundaries. Very, very important.
I think I've achieved my objective. And I think these 3 things for these 3 groups has been very succinct and very, very helpful. I really do think that, I really hope that somebody listening is able to take something away from this. Taye, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I will have you again and again and again if
it's been fun doing this. I love talking about marriage because people honestly don't need to go through that pain. They don't need to. They don't need to.
Very right. If we have the tools.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
definitely.
Yes.
But thank you so much for coming, Taye. We've come to the end as usual. It always runs off very, very quickly. But I really hope we've taken something away with us. I was going to say John, but not John. Justin, Helen, and I will very, very quickly round off the show. So please stay tuned for a few more minutes. Thank you.